collaborate with one another. So first, this is how the presentation will go. I'm going to just introduce myself a little bit, and then talk a little bit about Padlet and how I've been using Padlet, how I was introduced to Padlet. And then I'm going to show you a series of the activities that I've actually done with my classes, ones that are they are populated already. So student responses are there. So you can kind of see like my instructions to them and then how they responded to those instructions. In some cases, maybe how they interacted with one another, or how I interacted with them while they were doing these activities. And then open discussion. And so we can talk about if anybody else has ever used Padlet. You know, I'm definitely, and this, I guess this goes into my introduction, you know, I'm definitely not an expert in Padlet. I was just introduced to it since the COVID pandemic hit. I was very much an analog professor for the most part. Not that I was ever against technology, I just never really used it all that much. You know, your occasional PowerPoint, you know, I showed videos in class, you know, that sort of thing, you know, some YouTube clips that seem relevant to whatever I was talking about in class. But I wasn't, as Keith, I'm going to reference you a second. When Keith presented, he talked about maybe there being two types. I'm sure there's many other types of professors, but, you know, you're either a visitor, right, in the realm of technology, or you are a visitor. And so I'm very much a visitor. And I just remember giggling on the inside, like, boy, am I a visitor, you know? But I'm someone who's deeply interested in making things more fun. I feel like I'm empathetic with my students. So if I were a student right now in this visual culture, what would I want to have happening? Right? Would I want my teacher to just be talking to me and that's it, and I'm not seeing anything? Or do I want my classes, you know, to feel more alive and more dynamic? So the answer invariably is, yeah, put something in front of my students' faces. Let's get some colors in here. Let's get some things moving. So while I had no idea what I was doing or how I was going to do that, not really, I was so open and so excited about the possibilities. So Padlet is one of those things that, number one, is so intuitive that even someone like me can do it. And I tell this to my students when I was working at the University of Maryland right before coming to PGCC. I would tell students when I was, whatever we were doing, if we were like building websites or whatever the case, I would always use myself. I'm like, listen, I have the least amount of facility in the world, right? If I can build this, you know, this WordPress site, you certainly can. I was like, I lean on YouTube a lot when I have quickie questions that no one is around to answer. I pause and I play, and I pause and I play, and then I go to the site. And that's kind of a lot of the ways that I've learned and picked up a lot of this technology. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm so willing, I'm so earnest, and at the same time, I'm very much in my infancy as it relates to ed tech. But I'm really excited about learning more. So the open discussion, I'm hoping those of you all who also use Padlet, if there are like other things that you do, I'm like, you know, really open and to hearing more about those things. And of course, any other education technology that you're using, maybe we could have a great discussion about that at the end. So that's that. I wanted to, and I've numbered my, I call them little cards. I've numbered my cards to keep organized. So I'm just going to move through and go to card number 2. And I'm going to take you into Padlet and what Padlet looks like. So it's just padlet.com. So for those of you all who have never heard of it, or if you're interested in it, it's super easy to sign up. So I'm just going to open up this card here so you can see what it looks like. So this of course is the presentation that I'm currently in. I was playing around with something else earlier. And this is one that I've done a while ago. And I have to tell you, I've been using the free version. So I have to be very honest about this as well. I'm someone who likes free things. right? And so if it's free to me, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for it. So I have used every available email account that I've got that I've ever wanted to have. So I can get 3 free Padlets per email account. So I've got plenty, right? I had one at the, I had my institution issued email account at the University of Maryland. I had one at Howard University where I was teaching as an adjunct. I have my personal and I have a few Google accounts. I got a Hotmail account. So I've got a lot of Padlets and I've been able to avoid paying a fee, but the premium is here for you. And I'm sure that you get a lot more features. I cannot speak to those fantastic features because again, I don't pay, but I find that the free version has worked for me just fine. There is, a caveat to that, and I'll talk about that in a second, but if you were limited, for example, if you only wanted to use one email account and you want to, launch a Padlet, a Padlet account, and you want to use that one email, you'd be limited to 3. Right. So if you have 5 classes and if you love Padlet and you want to keep on using Padlet for all of your lessons, it could be problematic because you'll have to, and I have in the past, I have needed to scrub it clean, start from scratch. I save my work as a PDF and I'll show you what that looks like, but I've had to kind of ditch it, scrub it, and put the new information for a new class. So I just wanted to let you know that if you wanted to go with the free version, there is a limit, although I've even tried to work out ways around that. But I've been using this for about 1.5 years. And even with my 4 email accounts that I've been juggling, 12 just isn't enough. So I find that I do have to scrub it clean, start from scratch, save my old work, and, so that definitely has its drawbacks. So I just wanted to let you know that. So here we can make a Padlet, and I'm going to take you in there just to show you what it is. But Padlet mostly, in my opinion, is just kind of like a bulletin board where you get to tack up there whatever it is that you want. It can be links to video. It could be links to a website. You can upload PDFs, you can upload documents, and I've done all of those. And there are probably more things as well. It also keeps me organized. So if I'm in, and this works particularly well, I've used it in my face-to-face classes too, but I use it even more with my remote synchronous classes. Because again, it keeps things colorful, fun, and dynamic. They can collaborate in real time. I use Google Docs also, but I like Padlet more because of the colors. I also, I think I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I use the Padlet. I can't remember. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, so we can go into a Padlet and make one ourselves, and I can take you into what it is. But it's just a bulletin. There you go. I'm back on it. It's just a bulletin board, and you tack up whatever you want. And what's wonderful about this is that it prevents me from having to come out and go into these separate things. Like I don't have to come out and then go into Word, or come out and go into Google Docs, or come out and then go to YouTube, or whatever. All of the things are right there in Padlet, so I don't have to lose my place in that way. And so that's another reason why I like to sort of teach from the page, right? Sorry about that. All right, so I'm gonna open up Make a Padlet, and let me know if you can also see it. Can you all see this? Okay, great, thank you. So I've just been using the wall, which is really a blank slate. So I'm gonna select it so you can see kind of what it looks like. All right, so this is what a Padlet would look like when you meet it. It is absolutely nothing, which is exciting because that means that you get to build it and you put up there whatever you want, whatever's meaningful for you, right? Over on the right-hand side is where you get to do the things that you want to do. All right, so you're modifying the page. So you can give it a title right here. So I can call this a practice Padlet, right? And I can talk about, whatever it is. Let's have some fun. All right, so this is the address, especially if you want students to participate, you can just copy it to wherever you need, cut and paste it into chat, and they would have the Padlet so that they could participate in the activity. So that's where you would find that. An icon, right now there is no icon there, but you can upload something if you wanted to pick an emoji. We can do that just for fun, and you can see it shows up there. You can add your own, so you can really have a lot of fun with this. The wallpaper, this seemed to default to this one, but you can do whatever you want to do, and you'll see, right, if we just wanted like the red pictures, which is a bit of an eyesore if you ask me, but we can do other things that might be a little gentler for our eyes and that sort of thing, but you can choose. And you can also, I think, upload your own picture if you wanted to do that, add your own wallpaper, so you can get really, really fancy with this portion as well. The font, you could change the font a little bit. It doesn't get outrageous with it, but over here you can change the font. Display the author name. I always say yes, and then when we do the activity, the author's names never show up. So it always pops up as anonymous. I always say, hey, maybe if I paid the $9.99 a month, the names would show up, but I'm okay. I'm living with the anonymous. When students add something to the Padlet, I usually ask, hey, who contributed this? This is a really great point. And they'll usually just fess up and say, I'm the brilliant student who added this to the Padlet, right? I'm not sure why the names don't show up, but I always select it. Where do we want, so when students are able, and I'm going to take you in there in a second, when they're able to sort of click and add information to this Padlet, you can decide where it shows up. Will it show up at the top of the Padlet, or will it go to the bottom? And you can decide whether it's first or whether it's last, right? Comments, can viewers comment on posts? I usually like that. Reactions, sure. I always like the little heart because I think it's sweet. And I like to give the responses that I think are really great hearts. I end up giving mostly all of them hearts. So that's nice. I usually don't require approval. I don't filter profanity, but that's just me, and you can do whatever you want to do. You're all set. So now we can start posting.
Yeah, okay. I just noticed that Mary has her hand up. I don't know if you want to pause now to address that, or if you want to do questions at the end. It's up to you.
You know what? Let me pause now. Thank you for saying that, because I can't see anybody at this juncture. So let me, go ahead, Mary.
Just asking, because I don't ever want to assume, is this ADA compliant?
I don't know. And that's a great question. I'd have to look into. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. I wrote it down. All right, so this is just a practice, all right? If anybody wanted to add something, one, you would need the link. So I'm gonna give that to you in chat. All right, so if you look in chat, you have a link, and you can add whatever you want. So let's say I'm going to, ask a question. This would be for my students. Just something generic. And then I would publish that, and you could, you should be able to add a comment here. And if not, you can of course go to the lower right-hand corner and just like answer it, and you can just play around. Yay. From Anonymous, because the names never show up. Thank you very much. But Donna, yours does show up, so I don't know. I guess the students have more control than I think. Thank God it's Friday, absolutely, okay. Thank you, Candace, thanks for letting me know that. And there you go. All right, and then it can go on. And when I take you through what I've been doing in my classes, the questions that I've asked them, you can get more of a sense of how you might build a class session if you're interested in using Padlet. So that is in essence Padlet. This doesn't look like so much because we don't have a lot going on here, but it's just as easy as that. If we were to edit it, we could upload files. So for example, this is my messy, files here. I could upload something for student view. I could upload a picture. I could upload a web link. And then what are some other things? Yeah. And then all these other things. I can't say that I've used most of them. I've uploaded YouTube clips. I've uploaded images. I've uploaded GIFs. So I've done some of them, but I haven't done all of them. But here are some things that you could possibly upload for student view, especially if it's relevant to your lesson or what have you. Okay. So that's just a bit of practice Padlet, and there you go. I always tell my students when I give them the link, I'm like, listen, don't be surprised if you try to come back to this particular link in 2 weeks, it could look completely different. So this is not a stable link at all. And part of that is because I recycle. But that's just what I do, just to not pay. All right. So I'm going to close that out, and we're back here. Now I just want to get into what I have been doing, what I've been up to in my classes when I use Padlet. I don't use it for every single session, but I do use it, several times a semester per class, depending on what we've been doing. So for example, I'll have students engaging with one another in small groups when we do Google Doc assignments or Google Slide assignments, or maybe we just sit and I say just pair share, get into a breakout room, pair share, and then we'll come back and share. So there are a lot of other activities that I do, but Padlet, I definitely weave it in there. So at least every other week, they've got a Padlet going on. This is one of my most recent ones, and we were talking about synthesizing sources in 1010 since we're working on our research paper. And this was just a very short activity where I got them in groups of, I think they were in groups of 3 and 4. But I'm going to just open up what I asked them to do, and you can see the full extent of what we were doing. So this is the synthesizing sources activity I did last week. Here's my instructions to them right here, right? I wanted them to read synthesizing sources from Purdue OWL, and I just uploaded the link for them so they could do that. I also wanted them to read these 2 excerpts, one from an article titled Racial Microaggressions in Everyday Life by Daryl Sue et al., and also a brief excerpt of an essay that we had discussed earlier in the semester titled Chop Suey, and that's coming from their textbook, Successful College Writing. So I had them get into groups. I put them in breakout sessions, and I had them review synthesizing sources from Purdue OWL. They should have reviewed it from the textbook as well, because we had talked about it and I just wanted to reinforce it. Then the activity was to put these 2 texts in conversation with one another. Where do we see the connections? How are these 2 texts related? And in fact, this very personal essay by Irosukun Grong is an example of a micro assault, or at least what he talks about in this portion, this brief portion of his essay, is an example of a micro assault. And I wanted students to come to that conclusion, and many of them did. And I asked them to write a paragraph together, to put their heads together and to write it. And I wanted them to write this paragraph in Padlet so that it would be public, right? We would all see it. As students are working in their groups, oftentimes I just let them go, right? I let them in peace work together, and then I'll come here and watch the Padlet garden grow. So I'm looking, I know who group 1, I have written down the members of group 1, group 2, group 3, and all of that. And so I know what's happening. As a matter of fact, for the whole period, group 3's card was empty. So I would go back into the breakout rooms, go to group 3 and say, hey, how's it coming in here? I'm noticing that, you haven't populated the garden yet. Like, I've noticed that you haven't maybe published your paragraph. Is everything okay? How can I help? And then they'll say whatever happened, right? It might have been a technology thing, or they're just kind of slow moving, or whatever the case. I use the breakout room broadcast feature to just say, hey, listen, things are going really well in the garden. We've got about 5 more minutes. If you haven't finished publishing your paragraph, let's go ahead and do it. And then I bring them all together and we talk about it. And I have people from the groups read their paragraph. And in this case, I didn't write my own comments. Sometimes I do write comments to them here, but during class, I remember just saying, giving them feedback orally about what's going on, making sure that they remember that they'll need in-text citations, particularly if they're directly quoting or paraphrasing or what have you, that should happen. If this were a real life situation and this was their research paper, I give them praise when I see things happening. Like, I think group 6 did a really great job. There was a nice analysis that followed, that was embedded in their synthesis, which I thought was really good. Group 2 did an amazing job as well. So it's an opportunity for the other groups to kind of see, oh, well, these worked out really well. Let's see how different is mine from theirs, or whatever the case. And then we end class. And then what I tell them too, if for example, I think last week I didn't finish. So I said, listen, I'm going to make this a PDF, right? Because again, this Padlet link is not, it's not stable. So I'm going to make this a PDF. I'm going to post it to our content page in Blackboard. We'll come back to it, next class session, and let's continue talking. And just figuring out, okay, do they know what synthesis is? Do they have any other questions? Does it all make sense to them? And they would have done this in this really nice and dynamic and colorful way. All right, so that's just one of the things that I've done. And so I wanted to also show you what it looks like as a PDF, because in fact, I did right after class, save it as a PDF. And I can show you how you can do that too. And it does not look as pretty, right? It is not as interesting visually, and which is too bad. But all of the information is saved. It is there. The links, while not as colorful, are still active. So even in the PDF, they can access the same links that I had on the Padlet. And, and there you go. So all the information is still there. They have it and they can have this forever. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I can't see anyone. Are there any questions? Okay. All right. So that's what I did. That's just one particular lesson and how they were able to engage in groups and do this Padlet. Another one that I did was earlier in the semester, and I can just open this up. All right. So for this one, this was just a preparation for discussion. They did some homework reading, and the chapter was developing and supporting a thesis and writing effective paragraphs. I was the name of the chapter. I wanted to make sure they had done some reading. I wanted to make sure that they were reviewing on their own. So in this particular case, I didn't set them up in groups. I just, I had them working individually, and I just threw out a bunch of questions. I numbered them so they could go through. And then I was asking for volunteers to just write their answers in. And for some of them, I responded. So for example, here, I'm saying, yeah, that's good, but also remember you need to avoid sentences that stray from the main idea. Summary is also a way to integrate outside source material into the body of your work, right? So I'm responding to them, they're posting things. Here, I asked them to do a bit of pre-writing and to share it. So this was a paper where this was their very first paper when I wanted them to think about the ways that they had been affected by a racial incident or something like that, or if they've been a witness to something like that. And so they were able to share, right? We talked about it. Again, the anonymous folks, I would ask them to identify themselves if they were comfortable with doing that. And then we talked about it and how we could incorporate that in our paper, and how it's fine to use personal and lived experience in your essays, right? And so we talked about that, and it was pretty great. I also gave them another link to Purdue OWL about integrating sources, because it was relevant to the question that I had asked here. And yeah, so that's how that one worked. This one was just for my writing about lit cores 1020, the basics of fiction. And you can see I'm like changing up the backgrounds here. And, I just asked general questions. Again, this is just about discussion. And this was early in the semester, just since early September. What do characters do in stories? And let's talk about figurative language. And this is one where I didn't add any comments. And this is also my face-to-face class. So this one got to be a lot of fun because I was able to project the Padlet. So folks were working at their desk on their tablets or their laptops or their phones, and then their answers populated the garden, and you can kind of see it projected. And so it was really nice. And I was able to kind of make comments as people were answering the questions or taking a stab at it. Right. So they took a stab at name one symbol from Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour. And so I got a lot of stuff, blue sky, death, window, birds, and we talked about what might not be a symbol and what might be a symbol and why. And so it really helped with conversation, and it also got them engaged. And I think it's just pretty cool to know that, you're contributing, right? And what you're contributing, is visual. I mean, I can't stress enough how I think that that's so important with our students. So much more important than maybe for when we were students. I mean, it's just really cool. And I have a lot of fun too. I don't know if you can tell, I get really jazzed about this as well. So I'm going to close this one up, and that's pretty much how it's gone. I'm going to show you one more from what I've done this semester with my PGCC students. This one was pretty cool. I had students get into groups, and this time I listed the group members' names here instead of taking my own notes. So everyone knew that group one was Chanel, Femi, and Lisa. So when they post, this is their work product, right? And so I had everyone get together in a group with the understanding that they were going to be teaching the rest of the class about this particular learning outcome. And I just assigned it to them. And I didn't let them choose groups. I put them in groups. And so they worked on it. In group one, they kind of just like posted a very long paragraph there. And I think it was, they cut and paste from a Google Doc, right? And that was fine. And then we had some other folks who wanted to be a little bit more creative. So in their mini lesson, this is how they decided to present their information. And they just, did a bit of a slide presentation, which was pretty cool, right? And they really got into this learning outcome. And this is also something that I saved for them and posted on Blackboard, so that, and we have chapter quizzes and Mind Tap. And so this is like, this can help you, with that Mind Tap quiz, and it can help you for your final exam. And it's nice and colorful, and the students got into it and they presented on it. And, and this is another one of those lessons that carried over, if I can recall. So I think that everybody else, this was one of the better Google slide presentations from this activity that I had. So I just wanted to show you that one. But yeah. So that's one that we did. As you can see, they're all either Google Slides or Google Docs or whatever the case, like that's slides and all that. All right. So that's what I did there, which was pretty cool. All the time, it helps to launch a conversation. If I had questions, if someone else had questions, they were able to ask it. And it had that wonderful fall background. So I was very excited there. All right. So that's that. Those are some of the things that I've done this semester in this is some of the stuff that I did at Howard. I taught like a class there for graduate students, actually, in the School of Education, and who needed help with their writing. And I was also a kind of writing coach for, I suppose, even undergraduate honor students who needed a little bit of help. And I was invited in by one particular professor who taught science education. And she wanted me to help kind of guide her students through a particular assignment, which was what was it? It was like a content paper. It was a science content paper. So I'm just going to open this one just so you can see. This one looks a lot like just a cork board there. This one was nice. I asked the question just to get the conversation started, because the professor asked me in to help guide them or lead them in this project, right? She had assigned it, and then she brought me in as a bit of a guide on the side. And so I came in and I just wanted to kind of get a feel for what they were thinking. And this was one of the funniest ones, because I said, listen, introduce yourself to me a little bit. And then number 2, how are you feeling about the science content paper? Answer with an image or a GIF. And they really had a lot of fun with that. I love the Bart Simpson. A couple of people chose this one. So everyone was very stressed. And I just loved getting that out there. And it was just a lot of fun. And so something else that students can do when they're responding, if you're open to that, right? So we were just having a little fun. It was an icebreaker as well, because I'm, someone new just coming in and asking them questions, and they don't know me. And, so this was a way to sort of break the ice as well. So I just wanted to let you know just visually what students could also add to these cards. This is, I did a resume workshop there too for the same class. Again, it's a great way to start conversations, and I was able to upload documents, just like a Microsoft Word doc. Of course, I love Purdue OWL, if you haven't been able to tell already. I had some questions. I gave them an assignment. So sometimes I give them assignments as well that they can do. I had an example, right? This is a resume workshop. So I had a doc resume example so they could look at, and that sort of thing. They were answering questions. So this is an answer garden. It looks a little bit like a mess here, but in the moment it made sense, because when you're posting, you're posting all over the place, which to me is part of the charm of Padlet. But to some other people, they might think it's a little disorderly. So there's that, and just a basic background there. And then finally, I led a workshop this summer for APSI participants. And this is a Padlet, unfortunately, that I have scrubbed clean, which is too bad, because it was really fun, and I think it looked great if you ask me. But this was about how to include social justice in a traditional lit class in high school advanced placement classes. It was so meaningful, and I had a great time leading this workshop. And so I did it with Padlet. This was my presentation. And of course, it looks different because this is the PDF of it, but I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of some of the things that I was able to link, right? So from the NCTE site, an article or a blog post, Decolonizing the Classroom, which is a wonderful blog, and Building a Diverse Syllabus, some novels, some young adult novels, some novels that one might include on their syllabus, a discussion of great books, a clip of Jericho Brown. All of this is here. Just sort of wanted to introduce this oldie but goodie by Toni Morrison, Playing in the Dark. And then asking questions. So that was just something else that I had done to sort of engage my APSI workshop participants. And that is it for my examples. And now I'm going to stop sharing. And I would love to open this discussion up. Again, I can't stress enough how I am not an expert in Padlet, but I do use it, and I've had a bit of fun doing so. And yeah, so open discussion, who here has ever used Padlet before, and have you used it in a different kind of way, or have you used another technology that works similarly, that gets students excited about participating? Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I cannot get my students to turn on their videos. And so this is at least a way to add a layer of dynamism where really I feel like I'm talking to a dark, huge, cavernous, terrible, mucky place. And so this is a thing that adds a little color and a little joy to an otherwise very dull and dismal class situation online, at least. So what do we say? Oh, questions. Yes. Let's see. I'm interested in Lisa. I didn't see Lisa's question. Let me scroll up. Oh, interesting. Well, let me tell you something. I think that number one, my face-to-face class just struggles for a number of reasons. One, there was only 10 students ever registered in that class, and then like one dropped out, and then one's work schedule changed. So now I've got like 8, and none of them ever come on the same day. So I might have 6 on a good day. I might have 4 if it's not such a good day. So actually, the Padlet activity has been cool face-to-face. Having a conversation with a group of 4 students works if they've read, particularly for a 1020 student. If not, then both are challenging, to be honest. I have found the best response with my remote synchronous classes. That's been the best response. And it's really not, it's just not a choice. When I'm face-to-face, they can, of course, engage with me that in a conventional way. That's kind of removed for the synchronous course. And so I think there's a bigger responsibility that they participate when I actually assign them. And this has been the case where, not for so much for Padlet, but let's say something like a Google slide. Sometimes I'll give them a particular assignment and I'll put their name on it. I'll say, this is your slide and you need to fill it with information. And if you don't fill it with information, we all know it because your slide is going to be empty, right? And it's not just me who sees it, your colleagues see it too. And so the Padlet is sort of similar. When I assign it to them and when their name is attached, I think they're just like, whoa, I better wake up here. I better show up. I better not let my group members down. Right? So I think there's that. So it's worked swimmingly with my synchronous classes. Oh, so can I try to put something on your Padlet? Yeah. In the blue one? Yeah, I'd love for you to do that. Let me share my screen again. So I want to give you the capability. Number 1. So I'm going to give you the link. This is in my way. All right. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to give you the link. I'm going to give it to you in chat. And this is the one that I was just talking from. So Donna said, can I put something on your Padlet? Yes, mess around. It was just for today. So we had that practice one. You can, of course, jump in there too. But if you want to put one on the blue one, please feel free. And all you would need to do is, you can add a comment to any of these that are currently here. Or if you wanted to just create a new card, then just hit the little hot pink circle with the addition sign here and just do that. And you can just add another post and it would look like this, and then do whatever you want. Write something fantastic. Those aren't my words. Those are Padlet's words. So by all means, write something fantastic here if you would like. So write something fantastic, give it a subject, yeah, and play around.
I really like the idea that you can turn this into a PDF that then is stable and there for students. So it's a record of the class. And I think that also, that's good for students who have to miss class. Then they really, if it's a synchronous class, they have the recording, they have that document, they really have everything they need. But it's also, you can really also kind of present it as you are creating something that is contributing to our class's materials. I think that's really cool. Could you go over how to do the PDF? I'm also a technological visitor or whatever.
Such a visitor. Yes, let me do that. So I'm going to get out of here. Donna's posted. Okay. Okay. And so I just responded to Donna. All right, very cool. And so everyone should be able to see the Padlet again. You would go up to the upper right-hand corner. If you all can see it, you can move this box around if you'd like, if it's in the way. So just move that. And then you can share it. So go to share, and then you scroll down and you just save it as a PDF. And save it as a PDF. And then I just publish the PDF. And then there it is. And then I'm going to save it as a Padlet presentation. And I'm going to save it to my very messy documents folder. And then it is there. It's there. And then what I might do is share it with you. And then you'll have it. And I just stuck it in chat. And it's just super duper easy. And it's stable. And it's there forever. And yes, thank you, Sarah. It is, I love to call it community. It's a bit of a, we're just working as a community, right? That everyone does a little bit, and it becomes this sort of this product, from the class session. So yeah, it's a record of what we've done. And it's also kind of a record of, especially if I do a Padlet and everyone has their individual card, it's sort of a record of who didn't really do the work, and that's also enshrined in a way that probably they wouldn't like enshrined, but it's there nonetheless. And it's not so much that I'm like docking points or whatever, there might just be that little modicum of, oh, I could have actually done a little better that class session, maybe I'll do better at the next class session. So yeah, and that is, and that's it. So anything else, everybody?
Yeah, Gail, I just wanted to say that I love what you're doing with this. It's really, really cool. I love the idea of kind of nesting Padlets together the way that you did, so that it's you have kind of a primary one, and then you can kind of jump to a bunch of different ones. That's really, really cool. And I like it a lot. I think, that idea of getting students to participate, this could, I don't know. It seems like we could use this as a way to, I don't know, replicate or replace or whatever, like traditional discussion boards, which students respond very poorly to because they're very, very dull. But it's that same sort of like, hey, I have a question, let's respond, let's post your thoughts. But because it looks different, it's not a discussion board to them. And that, I don't know, doing just a tiny bit to, I don't know, break the mold or change up the way things look and the way that things work does wonders.
Yeah, thank you so much, Keith. I love that you said that, because I don't do any discussion boards because I don't feel like I need to. The other thing is, I mean, discussion boards work. And so Beth, to your point, I'm not teaching an asynchronous class at the moment. So, but I would imagine that this would work still just the same. So if you gave everybody the Padlet link and you gave them the instructions on what they needed to do, you could say, hey, by 11:59 p.m., right, I need you to answer these questions. Could it work with a group? I mean, one of the beauties of the Padlet is that it works in real time, right? So it works in real time really nicely. But that's a really great question. I haven't done that. I mean, unfortunately, when I've taught async, I do lean heavily on discussion boards, which I don't think is nearly as fun and engaging as this, just as Keith mentioned. So I do that. I do a lot of PowerPoints, right? I do a lot of that. I'm posting articles. Those sorts of things that are pretty conventional that can still get the job done, but I haven't tried it. But I would think that this could probably still work, particularly if you're assigning cards to individuals and not groups. I wonder how the group work would go in an async situation. But if it was just about individuals sort of like chiming in or adding their voice to it, you certainly could give them the link in advance. Those instructions will be there and they would populate this garden, right? And give them a time that this thing should be done. So that could definitely work. Give it to them next class session, you all go over it. I think it could, well, if it's async, I think the information will still be there. So I think it'd be good. Oh, Sutori. I'm seeing that.
Have you seen it before?
I haven't.
Okay. It's wild. And it does kind of what Padlet is doing, except it presents things more on like a timeline. But you can embed images, files, videos, what have you, and students can. The only problem with Sutori is students need to sign up for an account, which I don't really care about. But with Padlet, you can just give them the link, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this is what I love about it. Like they don't have to sign up. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the ease of use of Padlet. So Sutori, there's a little bit more like barriers there, but yeah, it does a very similar kind of thing, and it's super cool. But I don't want to sit here and drone on about it.
No, but I'm gonna look into it. I mean, again, I'm like so interested in other things that'll work super well, or if it's more fun and engaging, yeah, I'm definitely open to it. Mary, I see your question here. They pop up as anonymous, but I can also, like, there was that one example that I gave you where I actually named the group member. So even though when they posted it was anonymous, like I knew it was coming from that group. And if I were to grade a particular assignment, then whatever grade that for that response, then everyone in that group would get that. And then I could just assign it to individuals and I would just put their name on it, even if when it pops up even if when it pops up in the garden, it's anonymous, I'll know it's that student's card because I would have named it and I could just put it there in the heading. So that would be my workaround for that. So yeah. Oh, so Lisa's saying the same thing. I just assign their names. I just give it a name. Yeah. So great. Anything else? All right. Well, maybe I've encouraged some of you all to try Padlet. It is super easy to use and easy for the students to use and easy to save and share. And there you go. So I can't say any more great things about it. I just have been having such a fun time. And I was introduced to this when I was an adjunct at UMD, and they would do this all the time as kind of icebreakers, as kind of, just some opening questions for professional development sessions, sort of like, what are you thinking about this? Put your names down. And it'd be like 80 of us. And then you would just see all these answers just like all over the place. And it's messy, but also really awesome. So yeah. And then after that, I just adapted it and adopted it. I was in a teaching group similar to this, So I was very glad when I knew that this was happening on this campus, but I was in like a teaching group where we would share best practices. And, I was talking to them about my love of Padlet. And so one of my colleagues said, I'm going to totally start doing this. And she did something super cool with like a research. Part of the research project was to come up with a way to remediate the research project. And so she had her students doing an infographic, right? That was just all the information from their research paper and something they could post on social media and all that sort of thing. And they were able to do a bit of a gallery walk, but she did it as a Padlet, right? So that every student added their infographic to a single Padlet that she shared with the rest of the class. And she actually was someone who paid the $9.99 a month for the premium. So she was able to make as many Padlets as she wanted. So she didn't have to have the boring PDF and all that, but she was able to share with them this beautiful Padlet of everybody's colorful and very informative and very powerful. It was just like a wall of beautiful infographics. And so she said, I'm doing this from now on. And so it's just really cool. So if I've encouraged anyone to use it, if you've not used it, then yes. Oh, thank you, Beth. Yes, try it in the async for sure. And it's super easy. Just give them the link and they can just get busy. Give them a time when it's due and, assign people things. And I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think I would work in groups. So if you get them in teams of 2 and 3, they wouldn't necessarily be working together, but if you just wanted them to add their voice to a particular card, they could do it in their own time and come up with something. So yeah, I think that would work.
Gail, I had one quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do you know, like with the Padlets, can you embed them in, like, can you create like an HTML embed code out of a Padlet and like put it into Blackboard that way? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because again, I'm visiting, but Keith, I love that Keith. I just love that Keith exists, period. But I love that he's in this meeting because who knows? But I would love to find out all of these things, and I'm writing these questions down, including Mary's earlier question. But yeah, I don't know.
Donna's got her hand up.
Yes, I do. Keith, I was wondering the same thing. And I was thinking about trying to figure that out because I was thinking that would be so much better. So if you figure that out, please let me know because I was wondering and gonna try, but I hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, because like I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, it would be great if we could just put it in Blackboard so you don't even have to send them a link, right? It's just there. The only like issue that I'm thinking of right now is, okay, well, what happens when you have to scrub it and change the Padlet over? So that could be, I don't know, maybe you could just keep one static for a while. I don't know. That's another problem, another thing to figure out, but
no, it's true.
That would be wild.
I think that would be super cool. And I think that's something I would love to get right on top of, actually, because I use it enough. Lisa's saying, hold on. It doesn't stop the scrubbing.
Yeah, I think if I'm thinking of the right thing, I think if you can embed it anywhere, you can embed it as an iframe. I think I've done that. I think I put it in a Blackboard course once where the Padlet was just there. You just have to adjust the iframe HTML stuff in the post.
Okay.
And then it pops up.
Oh, and it looks like Mary just shared a help.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the workaround you're looking for, but I just did a search on it and I don't know if that works, but you might want to check out the link.
Thank you. I'm gonna save that link.
And actually I did also look up about ADA compliance, and according to their site, they're not so great on it, but working on it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary. All right, no, this is great. So many things for me to consider going forward too. So this is really, really wonderful. All right. Anything else? Oh, there was a school. Okay, so interesting. I sent an email to the, what is her name is Nicole Clark. I sent an email to her just to kind of have this type of conversation after our new hires meeting. Keith and Donna will know, like the day after, because I was like, oh, I've got some stuff to talk to you about. But one of the things was like, do we have to purchase the $9.99 premium as an individual professor? Is there something that PGCC could possibly adopt? I have not heard back from her, but I will follow up. Actually, seeing this makes me think like, hey, I did try to talk to her. So I will try to follow up. Yeah. Exactly, Beth. Exactly. I feel like, isn't she in e-learning? That's her, right? Nicole Clark. What's her name? Beth, Bye, Lisa. Beth, you're muted. Go ahead.
She's the person who's like the director of the new Teaching and Learning Center. But I know a few of us have done the Faculty Institute, and Stephanie did a little piece with this with Padlet in her presentation. They were also showing, and I'm blanking out on the name. It was Mary. You might remember. You had to like add a video, and people could students could actually contribute.
Yeah. Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
But I think that those tools like Padlet and that would be a really great way to make to like we were saying, break up the discussion board. So I just noticed e-learning has been busy this morning sending us emails about workshops. So maybe we should suggest to them that Padlet could be a really great tool for online classes as well as the other formats, because I've never seen anyone use it quite the way you were using it, Gail. So I'm really excited that it can, like you were talking about, it helping you keep on track, and it's actually a way to do a presentation versus just ways to get students to contribute, which is important too. But
yeah,
I think they might be the ones to talk to.
E-learning, got you. Yes, okay, well that's it. Probably I was trying to talk to the wrong person. That was largely, this is part of the problem here. So yeah, okay.
That's a big part of the problem here.
I didn't
really.
So this is why these meetings are important too, because I'm like, who's the name? Like, what's the office? But this makes sense too, e-learning. I'm going to look into it because I think this would be great. And if I didn't have to be like, I feel like that adds up, $10 every month, and since I don't have to do it, but and yet I would like to know, like, I would love the full range of Padlet to be released to me. At this point, I think I'm using it enough that I would be ready to take that leap. And yeah, maybe some others in this, but I think just college-wide, I think this could be a really great resource.
It seems flexible enough to work in like just about any discipline.
For
anybody. Yeah.
Beth, was it VoiceThread?
Yes, it was VoiceThread.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a real one. I mean, I was going to actually do a presentation on VoiceThread because that's something else that I have enjoyed using. But all of the answers to the universe are locked behind the gates of University of Maryland at this point. So I wasn't able to just like present on the things that I've done there, unfortunately. But VoiceThread would be awesome. And it's particularly great for when you're requiring like presentations in class. It's just so great because you can come, like they can present. So for example, if it was for an online class or if it was an asynchronous class, like they can actually present and your students can like watch it and they can comment on it and they can voice, I mean, like they can leave like voice comments or text comments or video comments, and they can do that at any time of day. And it's super cool. It's super cool. I like VoiceThread a lot. So I'd love to ask about that as well. So VoiceThread, and I'll do that. And I'll see what may need to happen or what's possible. Maybe that's even better.
Well, thank you so much, Gail. This has been really terrific.
Thanks everybody for coming.
So exciting. I really appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I had a fun time, and I do have fun using Padlet, so it was not hard.
Great.
Some thanks, Gail.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, have a great one.
Right, bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.